What I'm going to demonstrate here is how to take a portion of a PDF, convert it to a JPEG, and then use the highlight image question in assessments so that your students can annotate on top of what was a PDF and is now an image. So to get started, the first thing we need to do is access the PDF and take a screenshot of it. So I have the PDF open over here, and for the purposes of this activity, I only need to take this table here because this is the area that I'm going to actually want the students to annotate and write inside of. So in order to convert this to a JPEG, there's a number of different ways you can do it, but we're going to use a program that is part of Win 10 called Snip and Sketch. To access the program, you can come down to your search bar and you could just start typing in the word Sketch and you will see it pop up over here. It's an app that's part of Windows 10. So when we click on it, it's going to open up the program and you can see there is a keyboard shortcut of a way to take a snapshot, or you could use the new button and you could use this method. So once you've clicked on new, your screen will kind of gray out and then your cursor will turn into this cross. So what you're going to do is you're going to click and drag across the area of the screen that you want to take a snapshot of. So I'm going to start in the upper left-hand side of this table and I'm going to hold the mouse button down and I'm going to drag across it until I capture the area that I want, and then I'm going to let go. So you can see here I was able to capture it. I probably shouldn't have highlighted that part there, so I could redo this again, but just for this demo process we're going to use this one here. So once you have the snapshot the way that you like it, you're going to hit save and you're going to save this screenshot to your computer. You can see down here it's going to save it as a JPEG, which is the format we need in order to upload this to Schoology. So I'm going to name this document and then I'm going to hit save. So now that we have saved it, we're going to pop on over back over to Schoology and we're going to create the activity where the students can annotate within that chart. So I'm going to put this in one of the folders for the work and I'm going to bring my cursor down to where I want this activity to show up and I'm going to click on this green line. Now, while this isn't an assessment per se in the traditional way, we're going to use a question type in assessment to make this an interactive activity. So it's just going to be a one question assessment. So we're going to click Add Assessment, and there's some basic information that you do need to fill out here. So you do need to fill out the name of this. And I would suggest picking a due date just so that it pops up in the student calendar. If you would like to assign a point value to this, you could do that here. One thing that's very important is you want to make sure that you enable submissions. If you forget to do this and you create the activity, the students will not be able to access it. For category, I'm going to create a category for this. I'm going to call this classwork. Once you create a category, it will be there to select from for future activities. And I'm going to uncheck Sync to SIS, and then I'm going to click Create. So this is step 2, is creating the assessment with the basic information. Step 3, it brings you over to the setup for this particular assessment. Again, we're not using this as a traditional assessment, but if there are any features that you want to change here, you could do that. The only thing that I'm going to change is perhaps allow the students to take this or to practice this more than once, and then I'm going to hit save. Now that I have this set up, I do not need to put anything here in instructions for this particular activity because my instructions are going to be part of the question. Now I'm going to click on questions, and again, like we said before, this is only going to be a one question quote-unquote assessment because we're not really using this for assessment purposes. I'm going to come over here to where it says highlight image. This is the question type. And there's not a lot of information that you need to fill out here other than the instructions as to what you want the students to do and then the image. Now, if you recall, I only took a portion of that particular worksheet. The rest of the worksheet had text on it that the students need to read. So I'm just going to jump on over to this. Instead of capturing this, all I'm going to do is actually include this as part of my instructions by highlighting it and then copying it. Now I can come back over and I can paste this in here. The formatting didn't come out exactly the way I wanted it to, so if you want to spend some time and bring all of this up here, you can do that. For the time's sake, I'm not going to go through all this process. If you wanted to also include audio instructions to this, you could do that in your toolbar here. If you click on this option with the little musical note on it, one of the options is to record audio. So if you want to record yourself reading the instructions or reading the story associated with this activity, you could do that here, and the students would be able to play it back when they access the activity. I'm not going to do that right now, but what I am going to do is the next portion of this is you're going to be uploading an image. So I'm just going to add some instructions. Please fill out the chart below. Click review and finish when done. In case your students haven't done this type of activity, these are just more specific instructions on how to submit this to you. This is the color palette that they're going to have accessible to them to fill this out. And now we need to upload the image that they're going to annotate on top of. So I'm going to click upload image, and it says drag or drop or click to add image. So remember, we took a screenshot and we saved it temporarily to the desktop. And here it is, WChart new. When I click on open, you can see you get a little preview of it here. Now you can see it's a little bit small. I would rather make this a little bit larger so the students have more space to write. So you can adjust it depending on the type of image. You may need to adjust the pixels. So if you come down here and you scroll down to more options, by default you can see here this is the width. So I'm going to make this even wider. I'm just going to replace that number and I'm going to type in 800. And then as soon as I do that, it automatically changes the height to keep the perspective. And if you want to see kind of what it's going to look like, you can see it's much wider and it's filling out a lot more of this preview. So that's a lot better. So I'm going to scroll down in this window and I'm going to click OK. Make sure you click OK and don't be tempted to come over here and click Save. This window that's open on top is what's going to save the image to this question. So click OK. Now that that has been saved there, before I hit Save, if you just want to take a look at it, you can hit Preview Question. And here's what it's going to look like on the student standpoint. If I needed to go back and make any changes to it, I could click Edit. But if not, and you're done, you're going to hit Save. So now this has been created. The students have access to this and they will be able to work on this. If you would just like to see what this looks like from a student perspective, we can come over to this course from a student view and I can click on that activity that we just created called the articulation worksheet. The students will be presented with a screen to start an attempt. We allowed 2 attempts on here. So the student clicks start attempt and they will now be presented with this one question quote assessment, even though it's not really an assessment in the way that we're using this activity. So now the students can click on the little color palette and they will be able to annotate directly in this box. And once they're done and submitting it, you will be able to see the results on your end. So those are the steps involved in converting a portion of a PDF to a JPEG, bringing it into a Schoology assessment, and using the highlight image question assessment type in order to create a more interactive activity that the students can then annotate on.